Hey guys, Daniel, the bloke with a beard here for another episode. Great to see you. I don't do this very often, but if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. Um, I won't do that again for another few episodes. I'll try not to. Uh, Today, I want to talk about something that's very close to my heart, and that's the concept of confidentiality, or in normal person speak, keeping secrets. Keeping secrets is really important in this job. When someone's trusting you with their innermost personal thoughts, the last thing they want is for everyone else to know. And living in small town and working in small towns across a vast rural region, it's really hard because everyone knows everyone and we all know each other's business. So, how do we ensure that people don't know what's going on? And how do we apply that to just everyday life? I mean, your friends are talking to you, your family talks to you about stuff happening in their life. The first thing for us is one of the reasons we don't have an office is because it forces us to go to where our client is most comfortable. And the big the biggest reason for that is the more comfortable you are, the more you talk, right? And so if you're talking more, you share more what's happening in here. Uh, but it also means that where you're comfortable is also going to be a place of privacy for you. And sometimes we have clients that like to pick a public place because it's a neutral ground. You don't want some random freak coming to your place. And so they'll meet me down at the cafe or at the park. And that works for me because that's where they're comfortable. But I also have things set up so that if you see me down the street, if you see me talking to someone, you'll never know if that's a client, if that's a business meeting. I'm catching up with friends because I go out to the cafes and parks and all that, do that all the time. So there's a level of protection there because you don't know who I'm talking to. And majority of the time, I am having business meetings. I'm catching up with friends. I'm catching up with my family. So there's that level of protection there that, you know, you could be talking to me for anything. So someone comes along and, yeah, we're talking about bloke with the beard stuff. We could be talking about any number of community events that I do. And my army of volunteers have a very similar concept. Clients are sworn to keep the identity of their counsellors private, so that way when people are out in public, if they're at a cafe, at a restaurant, in the park, people generally speaking won't realize that you're talking to a counselor. And because of the way our counselors work, again, they could be talking about community events, they could be talking about projects that they're working on. There's that level in public where unless you say something, no one will know why you're talking to me. Confidentiality out bush is almost sacred. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, I was very privileged to be asked to attend the first Southwest Maranoa Indigenous Business Expo. That's the one. Yeah, that was yesterday, and I had a lady come up to me, and she was talking to me about the blackfellas who are going through a hard time, and that's, the guys and girls, they're all in the same category. And she reminded me why I hold confidentiality and that secrecy so close, because whether you're a black fella or a white fella, it can be a very shameful thing to have to talk to someone. And be a very shameful thing to not be able to deal with something by yourself. It can be, there's so much stigma that of being seen. And we live in small communities where everyone knows everything about everyone. And you get seen walking into a counselor's office, and everyone knows. There was an amazing TikTok I saw a few weeks ago. A lady who lives, I think she lives in Victoria, and she was talking about how she went in to get a pap smear. And in her town, little country town, the family doctor, the GP, they work out of the local hospital. And so she's gone to see the GP to get a pap smear, right? Sorry. And she's going to get this pap smear, right? And while she's doing the procedure, her phone blows up. Messages, calls, messages. And it's all these friends and family messaging her, going, "Are you okay? We saw you going to the hospital. Are you okay? You doing all right?" And she had to find a way to discreetly say that she was getting her lady parts checked out. She had a lot of fun with that video, I think, but like, that's small town life. And I live in one of the only towns in the region where the doctor's clinic is not the same as the hospital. Most towns at my region, the hospital and the clinic are the same thing. So, but that's the reality out here. And to make matters worse, some of our medical and community service facilities in the region have very bad reputations for just blabbing. One of the towns in particular I'm thinking of, it's not very far from where I live. A lot of guys refuse to step foot in that clinic, even if they actually need medical help. They'll drive the half hour, the hour to Roma, because they know that if they go into that facility, within 3 minutes, the nurse of that facility will be messaging all their friends, and guess who's here? That's one of our hospitals. It's a small one-person hospital, but that's what's happening. That from the perspective of the guys out here. Whether or not that's real or not, I'm not going to say. I've had no direct experience, so I can't. But that is the opinion of a lot of people. And, I've worked with a lot of service providers, and they'll just start talking about clients. We've got no permission to talk about them. There's no consent to share form. But they do it. They start talking. I'm like, hang on, no, I don't want to know this. So it's very scary when you know that these are the conversations that are happening. I have, with the bloke with the beard, I have a zero tolerance policy. And I have let a volunteer go because they didn't have consent and they started talking to another provider. It is something we hold dear. Whether that's doing mental health work through bloke with a beard, you probably know by now I'm a Christian, so working with people at church, other Christians around the world, I hold that dear. Church communities are very small. So if someone talks to me, they need to know that it's not going to go any further than me. And my wife, my poor wife, she knows that I have these conversations. Every once in a while, she'll realize that there's a bit of a D&M happening, a deep and meaningful, for those who don't know what D&M means. And I'm sure it annoys her not knowing. I'm sure it irks her really bad to know that there's something going on, and I won't tell her. And, she is a very intuitive woman. She will know that there's something up with someone when she sees them talking to me. But she will never know. And she never, because she holds that level of privacy that I hold, she doesn't say anything to anyone. She keeps what she knows to herself. She will ask if I want a hand to deal with anything. But even then, she knows I'm probably going to say no. Church communities are the same as small towns. we know everything that's going on with everybody. And so we need to make sure that wherever we are, we keep that secret. And so what happens with my friends? Because like me, you'll have friends that tell you things. Especially if you're, being active and keeping an eye out and you see that your friends are doing a hard time. What are you going to do when someone comes to talk to you about the problems they have in their life? You're not going to tell anyone. I can't stress this enough. When someone shares their innermost, their emotions, their thoughts, their feelings, when someone shares that stuff, it's so hard to do. And it's intimidating and it's scary. So when they tell you, it stays here. Goes in one ear and gets stuck there. Because the moment you share that information with anyone, you risk it going further out. Because once it's out of your mouth, you have no control. And that's why it's so hard to share these feelings, because once it's out of your mouth, you have no control. So we ask that question, who can I tell? Odds are they're going to say no one, and that's cool. If it's a bit more serious situation, you might, let's go. You might work with them and say, let's talk to the doctor. Let's talk to the bloke with the beard. Let's talk to Lifeline Beyond Blue, whoever it is, right? But we need to know that we're going to keep it up here. They need to know you're going to keep it up here. Once someone shares their innermost thoughts and the person they shared to blabs, the odds are we're never going to get them to talk again. And I pick up a client every few weeks. They've been referred by their partner. They've been referred by a family. They've been referred by their boss. And this is what's happened to them. And they don't talk because someone in my position that they've spoken to has broken that trust. And I don't know usually who that was. Sometimes I find out, sometimes I don't. But that trust broken is not repairable in the vast majority of cases. So whether you are a service provider, a leader in your community, you might be an elder of a church, you might be a coach, a sports team manager, you might be the president of a community organization, a community club. Someone talks to you, you keep it in here. There are, for a service provider like the bloke with the beard, there are some exceptions to this rule, and they are legal. It's not because I want to, usually I don't, but sometimes things happen. And this is a conversation that any service provider, any mental health professional you work with should tell you before you open your mouth to share your feelings. These are the things they need to tell you. And these are the things I tell you now because you deserve to know. The first one is if I am subpoenaed, the judge goes, right, you need to provide me this information. I have to. I don't get a choice in the matter. If I don't, I get into a huge trouble, right? So I will provide the information they ask for. No more, no less. The information they've asked for. Majority of the times, I will let you know that this is happening. If it is not appropriate, then I can't, because your safety is my top concern. It doesn't happen very often. It's not appropriate. But, that judge subpoena thing, that I have to do it. If I'm working with a parent and child safety finds out, they can send me a pretty letter with some very official wording and a very official letterhead. and I have to provide the information they ask for. Again, if I don't, I get in trouble. So, again, I provide the information they ask for, no more, no less. That's it. And again, if it's appropriate, I will let you know. I'll let you know what's happening. Hey, child safety's reached out. This is what I've shared. Those are the times when I get approached. When I get approached by a legal body with legal paperwork, there's nothing I can do. I've got to do it. I will complete it to the letter that I'm required to. The other primary exception to this is if I believe there is a risk of harm to yourself or someone else. As a counsellor, I am legally required to pass on when I believe someone is at risk of harm. And this is a really rough one for me. And I believe that anyone who is passionate about working with others will find this a struggle. Because what I deem to be a risk might not be the same as someone else. So it becomes a little bit subjective sometimes. And it's also one of the biggest reasons people are worried about sharing thoughts of suicide and self-harm, because it's a risk of harm to yourself. Majority of the time, I don't do anything with that information. I don't go talking to anyone. I'll work with you to help you get through that. Majority of the time, I don't actually have to act on that. Majority of the time, we're sweet, we're good. We can work together to get through it. But that is a legal requirement. In Queensland, every person over the age of 18 is a mandatory reporter for the purposes of child safety. So child safety is taken very seriously in Australia. If you do not have a working with children check, you cannot work with children. You can't. So this is something Bloke with a Beard takes very seriously too. If I believe there is a risk of harm to a child, I have to act. Sometimes that action is me working with the parents to improve the lives of the child. In instances where I believe the parents are either willing or unable, or both, that's where I have to go to child safety. Because those are the two things that child safety looks for. Are they willing? Are they able? If they're not willing, then there's little I can do. If they're able, but they're just needing some help, cool. But I'm over the age of 18. Obviously, look at all these greys. But I'm over 18. I'm a mandatory reporter. And odds are, if you are living in Australia, you're watching this and you're over the age of 18, odds are you're a mandatory reporter too. How that works in every state is different. But in Queensland, even if I was a sparky, that's an electrician for my non-Australian friends, even if I was a sparky, that would be something I have to do. I saw something, I go to someone's home, fix a light switch, and I see a kid being mistreated. As a sparky, I've got to tell child safety, I've got to tell the police, I've got to tell someone. So those are the exceptions to this whole keeping secrets thing, right? And those limitations are there for good reasons, and I don't fight them. The risk of harm to yourself or someone else, that is something I'm passionate about, because I don't want you being hurt. I don't want you hurting someone else. So where I can work with you, I will. But when it comes to your friends, if they're talking about mistreating children under 18, you may have a legal obligation. But generally speaking, your friends won't share stuff like that with you. There's other things going on. Keep it to yourself. If you are aware of service providers that are sharing your information without, having your permission, I'd love to hear about it, especially if it's in Southwest Queensland. But any service provider you've worked with that's shared your information, I'd love to hear about that, because we need to know who's doing that so we can say, hey, maybe don't. Maybe try somewhere else for help. And in rural and regional Australia, that's a very hard thing to say. Get somewhere else to help. Like, where? But confidentiality is key. The shame I feel when I need help and I need to talk to someone is unbearable sometimes. Even just something, my wife's at me because she knows there's something going on in my head and she wants me to talk. You know, the shame for me is unbearable because I've been conditioned to be this big macho man who doesn't talk, doesn't share his feelings. I can do everything by myself. It's unbearable sometimes. So when someone talks to you, remember they are feeling shame. The stigma of talking is so strong out here in the bush. And the stupid thing is that as blokes, if someone comes to talk to me tells me what's happening in their life, I'm here for them. I've got all the time in the world to listen to what they're saying, but I don't have the same expectation of me. I'm in this industry, I should know better. So when I talk, it's from a place of shame. I'm trying not to feel that way. I'm trying to get better with this. You know, the other day, my brain was being a little bit on the spicy side. And my wife knew. I said, look, don't tell me what I'm about to say, because I know you don't like me putting myself down. This is what my brain's saying. And she listened. And full credit to her, she just listened, and she did. She didn't tell me off. She said, you know what I'm about to say. You know I don't feel like that about you. You know everyone else thinks better of you. And, you know, she helped me work through it. So I understand that it's a shameful thing to want to talk. But there are people who will keep your secret. There are people who care and want to hear what you have to say and what's happening in your chest. If you want to reach out, give us a call, drop us a DM, please do. We have lots of time. If we're not the ones you want to talk to, also cool. Could be your doctor, could be your best friend. It could be your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter, your friend, whoever. Talk to someone. It could be 131114 Lifeline. It could be Beyond Blue. Whoever it is, do it. Reach out. If you have a topic you'd love to hear us talk about, let us know, and we will do our best to cover it. We have a list of topics there already, but we want more. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are, and whether we do it here on the YouTube channel or over on the podcast that we have, we will make it happen. And also, apologies for this video being so late. I was not in a place where I could do the video on Monday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are very hectic days. So hopefully I can get this out before the end of Friday. Otherwise, it'll come out Saturday. But look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you next time here at The Bloke with the Beard.